Looking for the best SIM card in the United Arab Emirates or the UAE? Well, you're lucky, because in this video I will tell you all about operators in the UAE, and eventually I will let you know which one is the best. So let's get started, shall we? Hi, it's Odu from Phone Talk with you, and today we will be talking about everything you need to know about buying an Emirati SIM card. Perhaps you are visiting the United Arab Emirates as a tourist, just visiting Dubai or Abu Dhabi or any of the other places, or you're already living in the UAE as an expert, or you just are a resident or citizen and just looking for a new SIM card. Well, I'll be covering everything you need to know. That also applies to both groups of tourists and people living in the UAE already. But before we can actually know or even think about which SIM card is the best, we first need to know about the telecom situation in the UAE, talk about operators individually, and after that we can finally determine which one is the best. So let's start with the telecom situation here in the UAE. So in the UAE you actually have two telecom operators. You have Etisalat UAE and Du. And I hope I pronounced it correctly, but it's just spelled as D and U, Du. It's like part of my name, Adu, but then without the A. But anyway, those are the two main operators, but you also have two mobile virtual network operators, also known as MVNOs, which use the networks of the main operators, which in this case are Etisalat and Du, which are Virgin Mobile UAE and Swipe. Do note that Swipe is only for the youth, so if you're between 15 and 29, you can get the Swipe SIM card. If you're older, then they will most likely not give it to you, because they actually do check your passport or your ID to see how old you are. And the main difference between Etisalat and Du is that Du mainly focuses on migrant workers, so people who are from other countries just as a migrant worker. Du has better packages for them, or perks, especially related to international calls or texting. So that's the main difference between Etisalat and Du. And do keep in mind that if you buy a SIM card in the UAE, you have to register yourself when doing so. So you are required, or actually recommended, to go to the stores of the official operators. You can, if you really want to buy a SIM card from some street vendors. I wouldn't recommend that, because the registration process hasn't been done properly. So you will have a SIM card in somebody else's name, and that could also mean that the SIM card would just shut off randomly, because then the operators may notice that, well, somebody is using an unregistered SIM card, or the person who the SIM card is registered to decided to, well, cancel it. So just go to the official store and yeah, things will be fine. And do keep in mind that if you're planning on using a voice over the IP protocol, or well, VoIP app, so WhatsApp calls, Facebook calls, or whatever, those apps are somewhat blocked. Some of them are accessible, some are blocked, but if you want to use that, you can use something like an VPN. I use NordVPN, and if you are interested in NordVPN itself, go to phoneservice.com/NordVPN. But yeah, those are some options if you plan on using a VoIP app to call or text people. So that's the introduction. Let's just talk about the operators themselves. So let's start with Etisalat UAE, or just Etisalat. And you may be wondering, well, why do I say UAE behind Etisalat? Because Etisalat is actually an Emirati company. It's because Etisalat is active in many countries throughout the Middle East, Asia, and also in Africa. And I say that to distinguish which country I'm referring to when I'm talking about Etisalat, and in this case UAE, but I won't keep saying UAE anymore. And Etisalat has the most customers, and although they claim that they have the best coverage and speeds, the speeds and coverage are on par with Du, so both of them have good coverage and speed. So yeah, there's not a clear winner there. Maybe in some places, or like particular locations, one may be better than the other, but that's normal in many cases. You can get an Etisalat prepaid SIM card for 55 AED, so I just keep saying AED because that's a bit easier to say. And if you want to top up vouchers are sold from 25 AED all the way up to 500 AED in many stores throughout the Emirates, so you don't have to worry about that. And of course, if you want data, you shouldn't go for pay-as-you-go database, because most of the time it's very expensive, also in the case of Etisalat. So you should get a data package if you need data, and these are the packages that are offered by Etisalat. 5 AED, 10 AED, 250 megabytes for 1 day, 20 AED, 300 megabytes for 7 days, 30 AED, 250 megabytes and 250 megabytes for social media for 30 days. And the social media apps are Facebook, Facebook Messenger, Twitter, WhatsApp, WeChat, Snapchat, Instagram, and LinkedIn. 50 AED for 1 gigabyte of data for 7 days. 100 AED, 1 gigabyte and 100 gigabyte for social media for 30 days. 150 AED, 2 gigabyte and 2 gigabyte of data for social media for 30 days. 200 AED, 3 gigabyte and 3 gigabyte of data for social media for 30 days. 250 AED, 4 gigabyte and 4 gigabyte of data for social media for 30 days, 300 AED, 5 gigabyte and 5 gigabyte of data for social media for 30 days, and 450 AED for 20 gigabyte of data and 10 gigabyte of data for social media. So those are your options with Etisalat. So let's talk about Du. They are the smaller operator with about 9 million customers. Etisalat has 13. So yeah, they are competitors, but something I didn't really mention yet is that the Emirati government has a minority stake in these operators, or maybe even majority, but they have a 40% stake in each of these operators, so they are basically owned by the state. So even though there's competition, you can't really say there's competition because, well, there isn't. And as mentioned in it earlier, Du primarily focuses on the migrant workers, but of course regular tourists can buy the SIM cards, and also Emirati citizens can buy these SIM cards if they want to. These SIM cards are sold at Du stores, from authorized dealers, and also at the international airports, so both Dubai and Abu Dhabi. Maybe some other airports, but I haven't been to those, I'm not 100% sure, but yeah, you can check if you plan on going to a different airport. So if you are a tourist or a migrant worker, you can get your Du SIM card for free if you have certain visa conditions, which are down here, and if you're from the GCC countries. So there would be, if I'm correct, Kuwait, Oman, Bahrain, and a few others. There's also on the screen, I don't know on top of my head. Then you can also get the SIM card for free. And if you are somebody from the Emirates, Emirates, then you have to pay. And because I didn't have to pay for the SIM card myself, I'm not sure how much you have to pay. But yeah, unfortunately, you won't get the SIM card free. Maybe you do, maybe they changed the rule, but I'm not 100% sure about that. And if you do know, comment down below and yeah, let us know. If you get the regular prepaid SIM card, then you can choose from the following combo pack: 3 AED, 30 megabytes and 2 minutes for 1 day, 35 EAD, 750 megabytes and 50 minutes for 30 days, 50 EAD, 1.5 gigabyte of data and 30 minutes for 30 days, 100 EAD, 3 gigabytes of data and 100 minutes for 30 days, and 150 EAD, 6 gigabyte and 150 minutes for 30 days. If you're only interested in data, then you can select one of these data only packs: 2 AED, 60 megabytes for 24 hours, 3 EAD, 100 megabytes for 24 hours, 4 EAD, 150 megabytes for 24 hours, 25 EAD, 200 megabytes and 200 megabytes for social media for 30 days, 500 EAD, 500 megabytes and 500 social media data for 30 days, 110 EAD, 1.1 gigabyte of data and 1.1 gigabyte of data for social media, to 10 EAD, 5 gigabyte of data and 3 gigabytes for social media, and 525 EAD, 25 gigabyte of data and 15 gigabyte of data for social media. So those are some good plans. And if you're a tourist and you're planning on getting the tourist SIM card, then these are your options: 250 EAD, 150 megabyte and 10 minutes for 3 days, 55 EAD, 500 megabyte and 20 minutes for 7 days, 110 EAD, 2 gigabyte and 40 minutes for 14 days. You may be wondering about these tourist SIM cards or these tourist plans. They don't really sound that enticing compared to the regular plans, which is true. But if you are on the short tourist visa and you come to the Du store, they may only offer you the tourist SIM cards instead of the regular SIM cards or the regular plans. So that's something to be aware of. I myself was a victim of that. Maybe if you're staying a bit longer, then yeah, you have a different type of visa, or you're staying longer, or you can convince them to get the regular SIM card, then yeah, those are your options. But if you're already living in the Emirates or you're a migrant worker, then you can get the regular SIM cards. Well, those are your only options because you're not a tourist, so they won't be offered to you. So yeah, that's something to be aware of. So now it's time to talk about the mobile virtual network operators. Let's start with Virgin Mobile UAE, or just Virgin Mobile, and they are a Du MVNO, so that means that they use the Du network to facilitate the mobile services. And most of the things with Virgin Mobile is that everything, or almost everything, is done within the app. So you can order your SIM card there, you can buy packages there. But if you really need to, there are some stores like Virgin Mobile stores, but there are not that many, so be aware of that. One thing that's kind of nice with UAE or Virgin Mobile UAE is that if you order your SIM card, unlike other countries, so it can take a day or up to a week before you receive it, with Virgin Mobile UAE you can get it delivered within 1 hour, which is, well, remarkable. And in fact, I was quite surprised that it just arrived within an hour. So yeah, but that's something to be aware of. So if you decide to go with Virgin Mobile UAE and you don't go to the store, or there's no store available, order it and you will receive it within an hour. It's quite, yeah, impressive. And since everything or almost everything is done on the app, you cannot buy vouchers in different stores. It can be done through the app. So yeah, just download the app if you plan on going with Virgin Mobile in the Emirates. You do not have that much choice when you go with Virgin Mobile because they only have 3 packages, which are 163 EAD for 3 GB of data, 202 EAD for 5 GB of data, and 299, or basically 300 EAD for 10 GB of data. And all these plans, except for the data, you get 500 minutes and 500 SMS as well. And do note that these plans are auto renew, and since you add your credit card details to the app, you have to make sure to auto renew or cancel your plan after you leave the United Emirates, because well, otherwise they will keep charging you because they auto renew. And now we have Swipe, which is the youth brand of Etisalat. Once again, you have to be 15, or well, between 15 and 29 to get this SIM card, and they will check your details, so don't fool them. Even though if you have a baby face, maybe they will let you go, but in most cases they check you, so yeah, you shouldn't count on that. Just like Virgin Mobile, this is an app only, online only operator, so download the app if you're planning on using Swipe, so because you buy plans online, recharge online as well, so yeah, get that. You have the following 4 data packages: 250 EAD for 500 MB, 50 EAD for 1 GB, 100 EAD for 2 GB, and 150 EAD for 4 GB of data. And now you may be wondering, well, which one is the best? Which one should you go for? Etisalat, Do, or any of these mobile virtual network operators? If you're not between 15 and 25, then Swipe is not an option. So, and since this video is for the majority of the people here, Swipe is not into, we don't take Swipe into account. And then you have these 3 options, which are Etisalat, Do, and Virgin Mobile. With Virgin Mobile, you don't really have much choice. You only have 3 data packages at the time of recording. Maybe they've added more packages, but right now they only had 3. And then you have these 2 options, Do and Etisalat. And basically, both of them are equally as good. Coverage is almost the same, speeds are almost the same. And of course, if you're in particular places, one might be a bit faster than the other, but on average, they are the same. And since, there's not that much competition, it's just a duopoly, so just these 2 operators, they don't really have any incentive to compete, and especially because the government has like a 40% stake, so there's no one that's actually better or the best. Both of them will do you well, both of them have good packages, and both of them will, you will have a good experience with both of them. So yeah, there's not that much more to say. And if you're already living in the Emirates, comment down below which one you actually are using and which one you believe that is the best. Because based on my experiences and research, I couldn't really find or say, well, this one is better than the other. That's just me, but maybe if you have more experience than I have, because well, you live in the Emirates and you could stay there for much longer and you explore the country more than I did, maybe you can tell us a bit more. So that's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, like this video and comment down below what you think about these findings. And if you're interested in getting the best SIM cards of all over the world in an Excel sheet, and I'm talking about 230 plus destinations, you can get it for free if you sign up for my newsletter, phonetravis.com/newsletter. And yeah, then you get an Excel sheet with the best SIM cards in a destination. In some places it's 1, some places it's 2, like the United Arab Emirates. And it will tell you how much the SIM card cost, why are they the best, and how much it will cost you if you want to buy a data plan that has at least 1 GB of data that is valid for 7 days. So make sure to sign up for my newsletter, and while you're at it, make sure to check out the blog. We have local SIM card buying guides like the one of the UAE as well, but then in written form. But I have local SIM card buying guides all over the world. I talk about the Americas, Middle East, Oceania, Asia, all over the place. But I also talk about international SIM cards, mobile hotspots, and roaming with your provider, because it doesn't always have to be super expensive. And yeah, just everything related to traveling with your phone. That's it for today, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.